The legend of Eugenio Suarez grows and grows as the Mariners prove they not only can hang, but they're ready to wreck shop with October around the corner. This is the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Mariners are for real, folks. It is September 12th, 2022, and Fangraphs gives your Seattle Mariners a 99.8% chance of making the postseason after taking 2 of 3 from the defending champs in dramatic fashion. I am your host, Ty Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patnode, and this is the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you want to hear from us even more, consider signing up for our Patreon. The link as well as our social accounts are in the description of the show wherever you're watching or listening to this. We still have plenty to talk about after a massive series win for the Mariners over the defending champion Braves. We'll be diving into the numbers of Eugenio Suarez's epic week at T-Mobile Park, how deep of a run the Mariners can make into the postseason, and we'll get Colby's thoughts on what the Mariners should do with Ty France and Mitch Haniger hurting. But before I get your thoughts on anything, Colby, I'm sure you want to let the folks know about what happened last night, why you weren't on the show. Tell your side of the story.
Just thanks for inviting me back. Kind of thought I had a lifetime invitation since I am the co-host, but I guess not. I have to ask for your permission, apparently. I just got sandbagged by Ty. That's all. Really not that much to say. Ty also forgot to mention we're still collecting videos, and honestly, still disappointed by the number.
I didn't. It was after the LinkedIn ad read. It was after the first ad read.
I'm sorry. I wasn't listening to you, just like you didn't listen to me last night. So, still a little disappointed by that. The audacity of some of you guys to sit here and be like, oh, I don't want to jinx the Mariners. You think you can jinx the Mariners? Did you watch last night's game? This team's good. They're going to the playoffs, guys. Get over it. Accept it. Move on. They're in. Everything, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not if. They're in the playoffs. You're not going to jinx them. Stop thinking that you're some powerful deity who can go ahead and jinx the Mariners by wishing them well. Send us your videos. Let us know what you think about the Mariners making the playoffs, and we'll put you in a freaking episode. It's not that hard. Do it. You're not some omnipotent being that can just curse the Mariners. You can't curse the Mariners. The Mariners walked off Kenley Jansen last night after they gave up 5 in the 9th. It's over. It's done. That's it. No, your curse is broken. And not that there's such thing as curses. Don't be a child. Send us your videos because this team's going to the playoffs. Suck it up. You don't have the power to jinx this Mariners team. They've more than earned the right to drown the sins of the previous regime, which isn't even a thing. But yeah, send us your videos. Let us know why making the playoffs is important to you, because right now I have to say, it doesn't seem like it really is. I don't know. So thank you to those who did send the video to us. I appreciate it. Not enough of you. Not enough of you. By the way, shout out to, I believe, Adam, who I ran into at the team store a few weeks ago and recognized me from the show. I forgot to do that, but I'm doing it now. So thank you very much. And, send us a video, Adam. Don't be a coward like the rest of these Mariner fans. Apparently making the playoffs doesn't mean that much to you. At least not so much that you're willing to risk a jinx on a 99.8% playoff shot. Ty, back to you.
Please email your video submissions to lockedonmariners@gmail.com.
Cowards.
Please keep the video to around 45 seconds to a minute. Say who you are, how long you've been a Mariners fan, and what making the playoffs would mean to you. Because, like Colby said, the Mariners are making the postseason. It's a matter of when, not if at this point. They are 79-61. They are a half game over the Blue Jays right now, which is basically 1.5 games because the Blue Jays, of course, need the tiebreaker, or the Mariners have the tiebreaker over the Blue Jays. They also have a 6-game lead over the first team out, the Baltimore Orioles, which is actually technically a 7-game lead because they, too, have the tiebreaker over the Orioles. So this team is going to the postseason. Their magic number now is at 16. But, there's two kinds of playoff teams in my mind, Colby. There's the one kind that, just kind of shows up and pieces out after the first round. They were pretty good. They were good enough to get one of the wild cards, but they are not good enough to compete with the elite of Major League Baseball. And there are other teams that, of course, are the elite of Major League Baseball, or at least they have enough talent and enough gall to compete with anyone at any given time. And the Mariners, to me, Colby, have proven that they are one of those teams and then some, because look, there's been some disappointments here and there. They've lost series to the A's, they've lost series to the White Sox, they've lost series to the Rangers, but also it feels like every time they go up against some of the league's best, the Yankees, the Mets, the Blue Jays, the Orioles, the Braves, the Guardians, so many teams that they have faced, some of the best teams in baseball this year they have faced, and they have won those series. I think that's proven to me this team can go very far in the postseason. I'm a little worried about if they were to run into the Astros, but to me, the Astros are the only team that I'm scared, for lack of a better term, of.
Coward. Bring on the Astros. We'll sweep them in 4 games. Game, set, match. The Astros can't match anything the Mariners can do, including winning with class. So, screw the Astros and screw the fans. And while we're at it, screw Locked On Astros. We're coming for you. Your reign at the top is over.
All right.
But no, in all seriousness. Yeah, go ahead and clip that. Put it on the internet. But in all seriousness.
Shots fired, for real.
Yeah, of course. The Astros are the class of the American League. There's no questioning that. And everybody else, there's a gap. I mean, there has to be considered a gap between those two teams. But again, we're not talking about playing them 19 times. We're talking about playing them 3 to 5 to 7 times. Like we're not talking about, having to beat them over the course of 162 games. Anything can happen in the playoffs. And when you're kind of rolling with the starting pitching the Mariners are rolling with right now, outside of a few bad outings here and there, they're going to be a formidable out. Gilbert's starting to throw the ball a lot better. Kirby was amazing on Saturday, kind of locked down that number 3 spot. Not that there should have been any debate in my mind anyways, but
he was incredible, man.
He was.
Let's just acknowledge that real quick. Going up against Max Fried, one of the best pitchers in baseball, one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball, great pitching matchup. And George Kirby went toe-to-toe with one of the best lineups in baseball and basically just shut them down in his start. That's incredible.
The Mariners on Saturday night were one horrific J.P. Crawford error away from pitching a 3-hit shutout against, the Atlanta Braves, who are averaging 5 runs a game, and they're huge World Series favorites. That's how close they came. Friday, Robbie didn't have it. It'll happen every once in a while. It's kind of the first time we've seen Robbie not have really much of anything working for him. The starting pitching is very good. It's going to come down to the offense. It always is. I still think the Mariners will play good defense, JP, this weekend. But I still think they're going to play really good defense. I think they're going to pitch very well. Still trust the bullpen. Yes, Sunday was awful, but that stuff happens. You just hope it doesn't happen in October, although it probably will at some point because the playoffs are crazy. It's going to come down to the offense. Yesterday was a pretty good, blend. They strung some hits together. They got runs that way. They got the big extra base hit that wasn't a home run with runners on base. They got our guy in from third with 2 outs after failing to get him in with 0 and 1 outs, but they found a way to get him in all the same. And then of course you have the big bombs from Julio and Gino. And that's kind of what it's going to take. You're going to need a blend of your offense, getting those, hitting a ground ball to the shortstop when it'll score you a run. And you're also going to need the home run. So the team is good. There's no denying it right now. They can go toe to toe with anybody. You feel good about facing anybody in a playoff series right now, except for maybe Houston. And even then, like I said, my 4 can go up against their 4. Like, I don't have any doubt about that. Just going to come down to which offense swings it better and which bullpen is better. The Mariners bullpen, I think, is better than Houston's. Houston's offense is definitely better than the Mariners. So we'll see what it comes down to. And obviously there's a long way to go before you get there. And it's just because you feel good about facing any team, in the AL doesn't mean that they're not also good and they can't easily, beat you if you don't play well. But you just go into, like, there's no matchup that you walk into and you're like, that's going to be tough. Like I don't see any way they can win it. So yeah, you get into the playoffs and you have pitching, you can win the World Series. Ask the Atlanta Braves last year.
Exactly. And I look at the field, right? I look at the Rays. I think the Mariners are better than the Rays. I look at the Blue Jays. I think the Mariners are definitively better than the Blue Jays. I look at the Yankees, even, and they're really struggling right now. That team is in hell right now for the last 2 months, really. I think the Mariners are better than the Yankees. They've proven that going up against the Yankees, that they're better than the Yankees, that they are well equipped to win ball games. They're more well equipped to win ball games than the Yankees are right now. The Yankees have all the talent in the world. The Blue Jays have all the talent in the world. But the Mariners do as well, and they have the fundamentals too. They're just such a fundamentally sound ball club, except for the other day against the White Sox. But outside of that, like they do everything right, and they are built for moments like what we saw last night. When was the last time we've seen a Mariners team consistently go into sold out crowds at T-Mobile Park and actually not leave the sold out crowd just utterly disappointed and deflated, right? Like, I just feel like there have been so many big series that the team has advertised over the years where they sell out the ballpark and then disappointment. They lose 2 of 3. They get swept, what have you. That hasn't really been the case this year. There's been losses. There's been the Ichiro induction night. That was disappointing. But for the most part, they have won these series. They have come up huge in these big moments when the pressure is high. And think about last night. I said this on last night's show that, both of these teams are playing for a lot right now. The high-end aspirations of both teams, with the Braves going for the NL East and the Mariners going for the wild card one and trying to extend their lead on the Orioles, and they came through. Like, both of those teams are playing at the highest level in that moment. And the Mariners came out on top. When was the last time we could say that?
A couple weeks ago against Cleveland.
Sure. Yes.
So yeah,
yes.
they're just consistently doing it, man. They won a series against the Yankees at home. They won a series against Toronto at home. They swept Toronto at home. They won a series here against Atlanta at home. They're just doing it, and there's this narrative like, oh, the Mariners get 40,000 in T-Mobile and they choke, and it's like that hasn't been true. I mean, aside from the Angels series a little while ago, before they kind of got on their run here, they've been really good at home, and particularly against in the big crowd. So they've also been very good against teams that are above 500. This is a good baseball team, and they're a dangerous one. I guarantee you, nobody wants to see the Mariners in the playoffs. And that includes the Houston Astros, who kind of suck.
And no team is having more fun right now than the Seattle Mariners. I mean, did you see that team yesterday? My God, those dudes are just having, I wish that I could be in that clubhouse. That looks like a hell of a lot of fun over there. All right, so let's talk about the guy that's leading the good vibes in that clubhouse right now, Eugenio Suarez, who's been having a decent homestand, I would say. Pretty decent homestand thus far for Eugenio Suarez. We're going to be diving into the numbers, talking about Gino in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Good vibes only, folks. Good vibes only. Gino Suarez has been a monster this week. And since August 1st, he leads Major League Baseball in home runs with 14. 5 of those have come over his last 6 games. He has hits in 4 of the Mariners' last 6 games, all coming at home. He went 2 for 5, he went 2 for 5 yesterday with a pair of home runs, including the game winner. He had a home run the day before that. He had another multi-home run game in the afternoon loss to the White Sox. He's slashing 350, 435, 1100 with a 324 WRC plus on this homestand. Colby, chills. DePoto did it again.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, the Winker trade, which is what we were all pretty much calling it at the time. Gino's basically pitched in enough for both of them to carry that trade over the finish line. And, the beauty of Gino is that you get him for another 2 years at, I think, $11 million per year. There's some bad in Gino's game. He's wildly inconsistent. He strikes out a ton. But defensively, he's been great. When he gets on a roll, when he gets on a heater, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. Remember last September, he put up like a 380 WRC plus. So it's not like he hasn't done this type of thing before. And it'd be really nice if he can, because you kind of look at where the offense is right now. Mitch Haniger's, just trying to dig himself out of a hole, and Ty France is essentially non-existent in the lineup. He's a nothing right now. And right now it's kind of Julio and Gino kind of, carrying the load here. And that's big, because, those are 2 guys that can do that. When those 2 guys get hot, they are the type that can put up like MVP level numbers for a month at a time. Both are doing it right now, but Gino is just kind of 13 home runs since August 1st. Like
14,
he's on pace to
14 now.
14. That's right. Yes. He's on pace to that's a 162 game pace of like 80. So
dude, he's out homering Aaron Judge since August 1st, and Aaron Judge has hit like 55, 56 home runs this year. That's insane.
Gino's been incredible, and probably the biggest surprise of all of it is the glove. Has been plus. We knew that he was better than his numbers said, because last year he was playing shortstop, and he's not a shortstop. But we kind of assumed like, maybe fringe average, probably Kyle Seager-ish at third base. He's been better than Eugenio Suarez this year is better than Kyle Seager ever was defensively. And that's saying something, because Kyle Seager could pick it. Kyle Seager was a good third baseman. Gino is having a better year defensively this year than Kyle Seager ever did. He's making more plays. He can make more plays. He's got a stronger arm. He's just better. And, all the people like, oh, how are they going to replace Kyle Seager? Oh, that's going to be so difficult. Nope. They did it easily. It's not close. Gino is significantly better. It's been a huge upgrade. So when you look at like, why is the 2022 team better than the 2021 team? Well, obviously Luis Castillo and Robbie Ray. Those are 2 of the biggest. But they also
Julio.
They also improved significantly at third base. I think Kyle finished last year at 2.5 WAR. Gino's already at 4. He's got 20 games to go. So he's been a huge part of this team. He's been available every day. I think he's gotten 3 full days off all year. He's just been incredible, and he's been reliable. You never know what kind of version you're going to get of Gino, but when he's on, jump on his back, he'll carry you to the promised land. So it's just kind of a good timing thing right now. And hopefully he can carry it, through the rest of the month and into October, until hopefully Mitch Haniger and Ty France decide to join the party.
So Gino right now on the year, 235, 336, 468, 135 WRC plus, 4.2 Fangraphs WAR, 30 home runs, 82 ribbies. Still striking out, 30.8% of the time. That's actually a career high for him now. But he's also walking 12% of the time. And that 4.2 F4 makes him the second most valuable position player that changed hands this past offseason, trailing only Freddie Freeman, first baseman of the Dodgers, who's at a whopping 6.5 F4, MVP candidate Freddie Freeman. So if not for an MVP candidate, Eugenio Suarez would be the most valuable position player that switched teams this past offseason. Once again, chills. Dipoto did it again. And
Hey,
need I remind you who made him one of my flag players
yeah.
in the preseason?
Yes, I remember you were quite high on Gino, and you're like, I think this might be more than a throw-in. So, yes, one good call. Could have made another good call last night and called me, but you didn't. So whatever. But you're gonna pat yourself on the back. How about I do something similar here? The other night, we briefly touched on George Kirby, and it's kind of a shame when somebody pitches really well on the weekend because we usually tend not to get to those on our Monday shows. We just have so much to talk about. But I did want to throw this stat out there because I did some research. So here's the stat. George Kirby is one of 7 pitchers in Major League Baseball who has pitched 100 or more innings, posted a K per 9 of 9 or higher, and also has a base on ball per 9 of less than 2. There are only 6 guys who have done that. This is as of Saturday night. So, well, I don't know. Maybe somebody added to the list. There were a couple guys who just missed. But here are the other 6. Aaron Nola, Kevin Gossman, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Shane Bieber, Shane McClanahan.
Yeah.
George Kirby's good.
Like I said, I think a week ago on the show, maybe it was on our Patreon show, patreon.com/control-the-zone. Subscribe. I'm starting to talk myself into potentially picking George Kirby as my 2023 Cy Young winner when we do our preseason. This is, looking far into the future. But I think once our preseason prediction show rolls around, I might end up picking George Kirby. And I love those high upside picks too, right? Pick Shane McClanahan this year. So, yeah, I really like where Kirby's going. And, I mean, you look at what he's done and the teams that he's gone up against and teams that he's just flat out shut down. And, I mean, Saturday night was his best start. It's by far his best start of his career. Considering the moment, considering the situation, considering the opponent, he was brilliant. Like, the Mariners have a star in the making there in George Kirby. And Kirby, as you said a few episodes ago, I believe, he needs Rookie of the Year votes. Maybe not first place votes, but he needs to be up there with the Stephen Kwans of the world. Bobby Witt Jr.'s, Jeremy Pena's, all that. Kirby needs to be in that same conversation. I think it's still Julio 1 and Adley a close second. But Kirby needs to be in that second tier for the Rookie of the Year voting, truly. Because he's just... Do you think about the situations that the Mariners have put him in, and the Mariners are going to put him in even tougher situations as we get into October? He's risen to the occasion every single time. It makes me so confident about his chances in the postseason as well. Because it's the command, right? That's the elite command, the elite fastball command. As long as he has that, he's going to give you a chance. He's going to give you a chance every night. And once the secondaries get better, whoo, buddy. George Kirby's going to be a force to be reckoned with. That's the crazy thing too, right? Like he's going to get better. It's like the Julio thing, right? Like it's like Julio is going to get better. That's the crazy thing. George Kirby is going to get better. And they're already doing this.
Logan Gilbert's going to get better. So it's just one of those things where the Mariners are still an ascending team. And that's what's different about this than, even the 2000 early 2000 teams. That was a team that was trying to extend its window, right? They peaked in 2001. They were really good still in 2002 and 2003, but they were clearly sliding to the decline. You could see that their window was slamming shut, and it was a relatively short window, 2000 through 2003, 4 years, decent sized window, not a huge window. Made the playoffs a couple times, got to a couple ALCSs. It was a great year, a great era in Mariners baseball. This particular era, you're just starting the ascent, and it's not a 3 or 4 year window. We're talking the window essentially being open for as long as Julio's in his prime. And oh, by the way, you have him under contract for the next 13 years minimum. So, this is kind of an unprecedented era in Mariners history. We've never really had this before in the 90s when you were building up to 95, 97. But even then, 96 wasn't a great year. 98 wasn't a good year. 99 was a terrible year. There just wasn't this like blueprint for just consistent championship window. And here you see it, and you see the farm system, you see the young major league talent, you see the controllable talent, and you understand that they haven't even gotten we don't even know who, like Jared Kelenic hasn't worked, and he was supposed to be like the centerpiece of this thing. Taylor Trammell, he's been fine this year. I wish they'd play him a little more, but he's been fine. But that was a big centerpiece. He was the centerpiece of the the big trade. Even though I think we all know the Mariners really thought Ty France was that centerpiece, but it's so crazy how fast the Mariners have gotten where they are without everything going 100% perfectly right. Because the Mariners hit and miss rate so far about as good as anybody else's. It's not like they're the Dodgers and everybody they pick up is amazing somehow. It's not. Right now they whiffed on Kelenic. They whiffed on Evan White. Unfortunately, they whiffed on Kyle Lewis, probably through no fault of their own. I think you can say right now they whiffed on Justice Sheffield and Taylor Trammell, and a lot of these guys that they thought were going to be huge pieces of their rebuild. No, and yet here they are, arguably one of the 5 to 10 best teams in Major League Baseball right now, about a year ahead of schedule, and with really just 3 of their young, developed guys turning into what we thought they could turn into. It's impressive. It's incredibly impressive.
And by the way, since you sent shots at Locked On Astros, I'm sending some shots to The Athletic. What the hell are we doing putting the Mariners below the Rays and the Blue Jays on your power rankings? What's going on here? What are we doing here?
East Coast bias.
Very glad I canceled my subscription to The Athletic. Just saying. Anywho, all right. Let me get your thoughts on what the Mariners should do with Mitch Haniger and Ty France here, because the schedule is going to get a lot easier now after the San Diego series, which isn't really anything. 2 games isn't going to swing things that much, I don't think. So after that, you face the Angels, you face the A's, you face the Tigers, you face the Royals, you face all these, bad teams. So is it time to maybe consider putting both Mitch Haniger, who suffered lower back tightness in yesterday's game, and we don't really know what the severity of that is, but if that's something that's going to linger for a few days, would it be wise to put him on the IL? And also with Ty France, with his wrist still kind of lingering, should he also be put on the IL? Because you're going to need these guys in October, right? It can't just be the Julio and Gino show 24/7. You're going to need some other guys to step up, and Mitch Haniger and Ty France are the first guys that I would be pointing to for that. But does the reward outweigh the risk here? Because, you will be going for the rest of the season trying to secure a playoff spot without 2 of your best players. If you do that,
it's a no-brainer. Put them on the IL. You've already secured your playoff spot. You're going to the playoffs. You say, well, what about seeding? And I agree with you. What has Ty France and Mitch Haniger done over the last 2 weeks to contribute in any way to the Mariners' recent run of success? Mitch Haniger hit a walk-off single. Great. 4 for his last 60. Cool. Ty France had a pretty good week, 1 week. And now this last week, he was god-awful, the worst hitter on your team. You managed, you survived, you took a series from the best team in baseball, one of the best teams in baseball, without any contribution from Ty France. Who cares? Who cares? And what you're really going to do is you're going to give Taylor Trammell plenty of at-bats. You're going to give Jake Lamb more at-bats. These guys need reps. They have to have reps if they're going to help you in the playoffs. They have not used Taylor Trammell at all since they called him up. At all. And Trammell has earned those reps. He's earned them over Jesse Winker, certainly. Well, now you have an excuse. Put Haniger on the IL. You still get him for the last 10 games of the year. So it's not like he's going to miss the rest of the year. Same goes for Ty France. It's only a 10-day IL stint. And since, they're not really all that hurt, you should be able to call him up right after the 10-day IL. Ty France isn't a significantly better hitter than Carlos Santana right now. It sucks, but it's true. Look at the numbers over the last 2 weeks. It's last month, the last 6 weeks. Like, Ty France isn't significantly better outside of 1 week than Carlos Santana. That's an issue. Fix it. Put Ty France on the IL. Don't let him swing the bat for 10 days. Mitch Haniger's been awful. Flat out awful. for the last month. At least Taylor Trammell gives you defense. Gives you some base running skill. He's got some left-handed power. So play Trammell. And you know what? While you're at it, you put those two on the IL. You get to call up a couple different guys. Call up Kyle Lewis. Give him some of the DH at-bats that are now vacated by Carlos Santana playing every day at first base. Maybe Lewis has figured something out. Maybe Luis Terence has figured something out. If Luis Terence is could hit like he did in 2021, that's a huge piece to have on your bench in the playoffs. Give these other guys opportunity. I mean, I guess you could give Kelnick an opportunity if you want to, but I'd probably just roll with Trammell and Lewis and Lamb, working through in that outfield spot. So yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer. You put both of those guys on the IL. You get them as healthy as you possibly can before the playoffs. You don't worry about it because they're not contributing right now anyways. They're not necessarily hurting you, but they're not helping you. And just continuing to run them out there where Service finally admitted, oh yeah, his wrist is actually bothering him a little bit. No kidding, Scott. No kidding. Put him on the IL. Give him a chance to rest. And then you still have him for the last, 7, 8, 9 games to kind of ramp himself back up before the playoffs start. Same goes for Haniger. And while you're at it, see if maybe it makes more sense to carry Kyle Lewis on your bench than, in the wild card than it does Abraham Toro or whoever, you know what I mean? So there's still things they have to figure out. And this is an opportunity to figure those things out. Is Taylor Trammell going to be on the playoff roster? Is Jake Lamb going to be on the playoff roster? Well, let's give him 10 straight days of, basically let's give him 50 at-bats here before the end of the year. Let's see if one of them forces their way onto our playoff roster. Or let's see, maybe we do add Jonathan VR to try and get some, versatility to our 40-man for the playoffs. So we'll see what they do. But to me, the answer is easy. You put them both on the IL. You start to play some of the bench guys who aren't getting a ton of reps right now, mostly Taylor Trammell and Jake Lamb, and you see what happens.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't know exactly if Haniger's thing is going to require an IL stint, but with France, I don't think you're helping him at all by continuing to put him out there because you're exposing him to even more things that could set him back even further. I said this on yesterday's show that, shock absorption from a swing, just a awkward swing, another collision at first base, anything can happen that can, set his wrist back even further or, force him to miss the rest of the year, right? Suffer an even worse injury that forces him out for the year. So, you can't mess around with that. Not at this point in the season, and with the schedule starting to lighten up, I think you can survive without Ty France for at least 10 days. And if he needs a little bit more than that, you have that time to give him right now. But you're starting to run out of time. The postseason's going to be starting in less than a month now. In less than a month, you're going to know if you're in the ALDS or not at that point. So, it's becoming time now for you to start making these decisions, and you're running out of time specifically on giving France the necessary time away that he needs to heal up. As for who gets called up, if it's only one person, I think it probably ends up being someone relatively inconsequential to the roster. I said this yesterday. I think it ends up being someone like Mason McCoy. Just to give you some infield versatility, someone that maybe gives you a tool, a useful tool in late in games, some base, some value on the base pass, some value defensively, what have you. Jonathan VR could be that guy. Mason McCoy could be that guy. If it's two spots that do open though, and Haniger also goes on the IL, I do think Kyle Lewis should be an option, even though that the same major issues is still present there. Can't play in the field consistently, so that limits
right.
what you can do with them.
But if he can hit now,
yeah,
and you have a legitimate right-handed bat to use against a tough lefty off the bench, it's helpful. Although with Haggerty and Santana, they're pretty good against lefties too. So maybe it's not a fit, but give it a shot. I would.
And the other interesting one, the one that I'm really interested in, is Luis Terence. They've also been playing him at second base a little bit in Tacoma, which is interesting. But he's hitting a little bit down there. So, if he's figured it out, like you said, if you can get 2021 Luis Terence or something close to that and add him at the end of the season, that's a guy I want on my playoff roster If I need a big hit in the postseason, I need someone to come off the bench, get a big hit. Luis
If-
Torrens might be my guy.
I know we got to run, so I'll make this quick.
Yeah.
But if Luis Torrens comes up and, let's say he gets 50 plate appearances, right? And he goes 250, 320, 500, which I think is about what he did last year, right? You carrying him over Casale?
Probably. If he can catch it
Right?
at least a little bit.
Defense
like
doesn't
an
really
emergency,
matter.
Then whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Cal Raleigh's starting all those games.
Yeah.
In a 3-game series, Cal Raleigh's getting 3 starts. So how much do you really need a defense-only backup catcher? I'd carry Terence. So yeah, I think I would be interested. And by the way, because France, if you put him on the IL, Terence can DH because you have Casale, so you don't need to catch him at all, or he could play first base and Santana can DH. So I really like the Luis Terence idea. I don't know how he's doing in AAA, but give it a shot.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DaneGnzlz, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen. Now make your second listen, the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.